Alright, so this time I'm talking about another anime. I just finished it, so everything is fresh in my mind. And this time I had some notes because I felt like that would allow me to talk about more of what I wanted to say. But pretty much the anime is called The Notorious Talker Runs the Strongest Clan. So I'll read a summary again, and then from the summary, I'll go ahead and give my thoughts. So Noel longs to be a seeker like his heroic grandfather, slaying the beasts that emerge from the abysses and exploring far-off lands. Unfortunately, it turns out that he's nothing but a measly talker, a job with no combat skills whatsoever. Undaunted, Noel sets out to establish the strongest clan in all the land bars, using his silver-tongued talk. I don't know why I thought that said something else. Talker skills to unite assassins and heroes under his leadership. So, pretty much some background on the world. I mentioned the Seekers. Seekers are pretty much just adventurers or hunters in this world. And then, of course, they get classes. And, of course, these classes are based off of, like, what you're born with. So you don't really get to choose. And then, of course, you get, like, some innate skills as well. So this is, of course, your class affects your skills and progression. And I think it also has, like, passive boosts, not just like active skills. So things like having a stronger body, being a little bit faster, like less physical limitations. It also affects your mind and I think your personality as well sometimes. So parties can then also become guilds or what they're called clans. So you can go from a party to it expanding to be a clan. And then they don't necessarily level up, but through their exploits in the abysses, like fighting monsters and doing stuff like that, they rank up. So the rank isn't assigned by the guild. It's more so like it's very meritocratic. It's earned. So the talker, like we just mentioned in the summary, is the weakest class. There are no combat abilities. They're not able to buff themselves. What they're able to do is just give orders and then buff their allies. So if any of you are familiar with Dolu Dalu or Soulland, this kind of reminded me of the control type, and even it's very similar because in that one the main character has something called the blue silvergrass, and it's considered one of the weakest like spiritual. I forgot what they call them, but like spiritual embodiments. So everyone has like something they can like manifest, and his was just grass. So that means his was super weak, but it turns out he was able to use it to be super strong. But this isn't that kind of story though. So pretty much I'm going to focus most of this on the MC himself and not really any of the other characters because I feel like that is enough to kind of sell this anime. So this anime, I want to start off kind of saying like the anime associates Noel heavily with a snake. So at first the snake just kind of pops up here and there, but later on into the season it pretty much depicts him as being a snake or people seeing him as one, and I feel like this is probably the best representation, and I think there's some biblical aspects to it too, and I've heard things supported in the story that kind of back that up. But what I wrote down was that biblically the snake is the most cunning of the animals that God created. I'll try to put the verse and the exact scripture, and then at one point, Noel says that the snake is a deceiver of man, or is considered one. So I was like, interesting. So, but he's also, I'm just going to kind of go over different aspects of like who this person is. But I think that snake analogy is probably a good indicator of kind of what he is. But it gets more crazier than that. So, he has the weakest class, like I said, and before that, he's the kind of person that when you insult him, he considers it a good thing. But more on that, I think his class affects his personality. That's why I said that, because him being a talker class, later on it mentions that it can speed up his cognition, but also he's a real yapper, bro. Like his speechcraft is crazy. Speech is max 10 out of 10. Like he gets into verbal fisticuffs and he manipulates people in a way like he's a manipulator, an instigator, an investigator, a conspiracist.
No rules, no boundaries. He doesn't flinch at torture, human trafficking, or genocide. He's not loyal to a flag or a country or any set of ideals. He trades blood for money. He's your new best friend.
Like, he's building bonds, breaking bonds, helping people, like getting debts. Like, I believe that his strength is his relationships, really, and the effect that he has on people through his words. Whether you hate him, whether you love him, whether you're allied with him, like, he uses his words to get you to do what he wants you to do to enable him to do better. Because at the end of the day, he can't fight. That's why for one of the quotes I put, or not from the quotes, but I say this for the very bottom, but I'll say it now, is that to conquer the strong is to become the strongest. I think I wrote that wrong. I think he said he'll become the strongest by conquering the strong. So that's how he'll become the strongest, and he can't do that through sheer power and sheer force of just his body. So he has to use his mind, his words, his actions, and of course other things too. Like, he'll investigate people so he can learn their weaknesses. He has a saying that no matter who someone is, there's something that will take away their smile. So whether it's someone weak or someone way out of his league in terms of strength, he will poke, prod, speak to them to find out what it is that makes them tick, and then also do some investigation to learn things about them on the side as well. Like I said, from the strongest hero to even criminal organizations, he'll do this to all of them. Like, he'll perfectly stoke these flames so he can then use them at a later point to fulfill his own objectives. And then some other quotes that will kind of put more perspective on the kind of person he is. He has one that says, "I make them pay 1,000 times over." Or another one is, "It is eat or be eaten, and it's not the weak who are eaten, but the cocky. They are going to be our stepping stones." So this is how he sees, like, honestly, this is how he sees people, whether they advance him towards his goal or they don't advance him towards his goal. So, and there's just so many other instances. Like, people call him a demon, people call him like a monster, like all this other stuff. I really enjoy characters like this because at the end of the day, he's not really a bad guy because he does everything like lawfully, but he's like a lawful kind of evil where everyone questions his actions, but at the end of the day, he doesn't get in trouble because he's not doing anything bad or wrong. He's well within his rights to do pretty much everything he does, and it's crazy the outcome he has by using his brain. So some things I also put down was that this attitude comes from his grandfather. So his grandfather was formerly the strongest seeker, and his grandfather taught him, don't fight fair, do whatever it takes to win. And he taught him that it's better to be called a demon. Another quote he has is that Notorious is better than not having any kind of fame at all. So, like how they say, all publicity is good publicity. And also, his grandpa also taught him to like be very frugal and haggle and barter. So all these traits, they come from his grandpa. I think that's really cool because his grandpa, not because of this, but his grandpa died, and on his deathbed, his grandpa asked him if he still wanted to be a seeker like him. This is all first episode, so it's not to spoil it. I'm trying to like not talk about too many specifics. I want someone to watch this fresh because there are lots of things that happen that you just have to watch and not have any idea of it going in. But so I just kind of want to illustrate the kind of person that Noel is. But he says that so when his grandfather died, he promised him he's going to be a seeker, and he's also going to be the strongest one too. So he's willing to do anything to reach that goal, but of course lawfully. Like, he doesn't cheat, he doesn't steal, he doesn't commit murder, but he will kill you if you commit a crime in the act of also crossing him, or he'll make you pay, like you said, 1,000 times over. So it's just refreshing, I guess. Once again, I kind of said in the last video that you see an anime where the main character isn't necessarily like just, a goody two shoes, a bleeding heart, and that he will achieve his goal by any means necessary. And even it's to the point that when things happen, he mostly remains unfazed because he knows that he's just going to continue pushing towards his goal. So some other things I pointed out, that's wanted to shout out for the uniqueness of this anime, is that despite his grandfather being really strong and him being not so much, is that his grandfather doesn't belittle or hate or look down on him. He still believes in him. A lot of anime, whenever you have a patriarch or even just an elder or any family member in a position of power, and then they expect you to take on a similar mantle, but you are lacking, whether because you don't want to do it or you just don't have the ability innately, they usually look down upon. Or even if you have the ability, but it's just not in the proper way. So if anyone's familiar with chivalry of a failed knight, his family looks down upon him because he doesn't have much magic power. Even though he's still super strong, he just doesn't have magic power. So they still look down on him and cast him aside. But this is not the case here. So I thought that was really cool. So it almost makes sense why he's so driven to be a seeker, because of how his grandfather loved him. And of course his personality is very based off of how his grandfather was. His grandfather was just a walking demon and was very gutsy. So that's what allows him to make these bold claims, to be so bold and to challenge anyone, not just with physically, but with his mind. And then on top of this, I wanted to also mention that this is the more unique on the weakest being the strongest. So many times we'll have the weakest being the strongest, like in Black Clover, where he's weak because he doesn't have any magic, but he gets anti-magic and it makes him super powerful. So it almost replaces the system that he wasn't able to tap into with something else that makes him just as strong as everyone else, if not stronger, if not even more stronger, right? Even more special, even more powerful. In this case, he trained his physical body to the limit, and even at this point, there's still such an immense gap between him and any fight he could be in. So he has to rely on more tools. He has to rely on more weapons. He has to rely on freaking planning 10,000 steps ahead. It's almost like a Dark Souls game where you're fighting bosses that can almost one-shot you or literally just wipe your health away. So you have to know every single thing you're going to do, whether it's memorizing their attack patterns, whether it's knowing their exact weaknesses, whether it's griefing them. You have to know every single thing you're going to do in order for you to win. So I feel like that's what Noel is. So he understands his weakness. So that's why he knows in order to become the strongest, he can't take the traditional path of I'm just going to become physically stronger and beat everyone up. So he was trained by his granddad. So he's not a slouch. Like, he can actually fight. And there are times where he does physically dominate people, but it's only through surprise or after studying them in depthly or different things like that. So I just want to leave off with, he recognized he cannot be the strongest, but he'll become the strongest by leading the strongest clan. So that's really my pitch for this anime. I would honestly say it's peak. Sadly, it's only one season so far. It only came out last year, but honestly, it's really good. I don't feel like enough people are talking about it. And once again, I just enjoy characters that are just more so in that more morally questionable place, where they're kind of twisted, he's even more twisted. He's not, I wouldn't say he's a bad person, but he's not afraid to ruin other people's dreams and hopes so that he can advance his, but he's not out here committing crimes and stuff. But that's pretty much it. Any recommendations for me to watch, check them out. But hopefully you found something from this entertaining. Maybe got to get a laugh, but that's really about it. So, signing out.